Hello everybody, welcome back to another book related video. I am here today to talk about the 6 books, I believe. Yeah, 6 books that I read in February. I feel like that's such a good amount of books for me. It's kind of more on the higher end of what I can normally read in a month, and especially in February, which is such a short month anyway. I'm really proud of myself. So yeah, I read 6 books. Let's just go ahead and start chatting about them. If you follow me on Goodreads, you pretty much already know everything that I'm going to say, but I just love talking about books. So I'm here today. I'm like real tired. I have no eyelashes on. Well, I have my eyelashes, but I don't have any extra eyelashes on, so I feel like I look a little bit more tired, but I'm excited. Let's chat about some books. So first up, we have one that my husband actually purchased for me because he knows that I love Quinta Brunson and I love Abbott Elementary. So this is the Quinta Brunson She Means Well, which is her autobiography. This is the I read a nonfiction book before, but I did want to at least read one nonfiction book in 2023, so this might be my one and only that I read in 2023, depending, we shall see. So this is basically about Quinta's life growing up. She tells a lot of stories about her childhood, a lot of stories about her like early adulthood, how she became famous through like BuzzFeed, working at BuzzFeed for a little bit. There is no reference to Abbott if you're like actually more interested in that in this book. So I just really enjoyed it. I will say, personally, I am not a nonfiction autobiography type of gal. This was okay. I found myself really not wanting to pick it up as much as I would like a thriller, for instance, or a romance. But I mostly just wanted to read it to finish it and have one under my belt, I suppose, for 2023. So I did enjoy it. I felt like she's super funny. There was definitely a lot of times where I would find myself kind of chuckling to myself because her stories were really funny to read. But it's just not something I would go out of my way personally to read. However, if you do enjoy like autobiographies and you know who Quinta Brunson is and you enjoy her as a person, I think you should pick this up and read this. But for me, it just like wasn't my cup of tea. However, I don't think it's fair to rate an autobiography anything below like a 4 stars, so I gave this 4 stars. So that's the first one that I read this month. I don't think the rest of these are in any particular order, so I'm just gonna start grabbing this. The next one is a romance. This is Love in the Time of Serial Killers. This is by Alicia Thompson. I really loved this. I think I gave this 4 or 5 stars. So all in all, this is a romance. This is about a girl. I forget every single person's name. This is, well, obviously Quinta. It's Quinta Brunson's book. But this is about a girl named Phoebe who is a PhD student, and her father passes away. So she has to go to Florida, I think is the setting, to sort of go through his belongings, go through his home, kind of clean things up to sell. I think it's like a townhome. And she has a half brother who lives there who, he's like very quirky and fun, and he's kind of a nice side character. But she is writing her like thesis paper on serial killers and true crime, and she's very invested in it and very interested in the topic. So I think because she's like constantly writing about it and researching and doing things revolving, you know, her thesis paper, she kind of sees everybody as almost like a threat. She's like paranoid by everybody. So like the first night that she gets to her dad's house, she gets there late at night, her neighbor, but she doesn't realize it's the neighbor, shows up kind of randomly, and it really freaks her out. So she's kind of on this like road to feeling very sketched out by this neighbor, and she thinks he's a serial killer, and it turns out to be just a really sweet romance. Like, it's more than anything, this is a romance. This is just kind of her being a little bit extra paranoid. I will say I really did enjoy this because I am really weirdly, like, I guess it's not weird because I know a lot of people are fascinated by true crime nowadays. So a lot of the references she was making to various killers, to certain things that I feel like for like just the average person, they wouldn't really pick up on those references. But because I feel like I know a lot of that stuff, I picked up on all of her references. I felt like I really related to Phoebe as a character. The romance side was super cute. Like, once the initial like threat was uncovered, the romance was very cute. I will say this is like one of my favorite covers. I felt like this was so fun to read in February because it's such a bright like red and pink heart book. It was very cute. This is definitely something I think I would pick up again for sure, but I'm saying like as far as like the author, I think I would pick up another book by her because I really enjoyed the writing. It was super easy to read. This was really cute. So again, this was Love in the Time of Serial Killers. The next one I have here is another romance. This is called The Rewind. This is by Alison Wynne Scotch. I kept saying Scott. I don't know why. I feel like it's almost like I'm having a Mandela effect, because I swore this said Scott, and then when I looked at this on Goodreads and it said Scotch, I was like, am I crazy? And then I looked at my book and my book all of a sudden said Scotch, and I was like, something's happening here, some Berenstain Bears situation. Regardless, The Rewind, another romance. So this one is, it was hard for me to get into it first, but once I initially got into it, I really did enjoy it. I think I also gave this one 4 stars as well. It's about, it's so difficult to explain. I was also trying to explain this to somebody, and I feel like I just had to like tell them the whole book. Like I had to basically type the whole book to them because it was just so hard to explain. So this is about 2 characters, Frankie and Ezra. This is written from multiple POVs, but it's in 3rd person, which can be a little bit difficult to get into, which I think is kind of strange to have multiple POVs and be 3rd person, but I digress. So Frankie and Ezra were college sweethearts. Then now 10 years later, something like tragic happened. They broke up, whatever. 10 years later, they're back at their college for their mutual friend's wedding. So they're both like very still like angry, upset. They both still have like feelings about each other because of the breakup. So when you first start reading this book, you pick it up at they both wake up 10 years later in their old college dorm, kind of like undressed but sleeping together, and they're like, whoa, what is going on? So then you kind of sort of go through this story and you piece together what is happening. So at this wedding, they had like a scavenger hunt. These 2 were paired up. Things are happening. They both wake up with wedding rings on their finger. I probably should have said that. That's pretty prominent. So they're like, did we get married? Like, what is happening? But they still don't like each other. It's very complicated. I think it jumps from the then and the now quite often. You get sort of the backstory of their relationship, and then you get sort of like what's happening as they're trying to uncover the mystery of why they're both wearing rings and what happened this scavenger hunt night. I think that for me was kind of fun, and that's why I think I rated it so highly, because I truly did enjoy the kind of mystery aspect of what exactly happened that night. What's like, why do they have rings on each other's fingers? Did they get married? Did they not? Who knows? And I think that's why I kind of liked it. It was a longer romance. I think it was almost 400 pages. No, it was like 350, but it was good. I do remember really enjoying this. I know this has a lot of mixed reviews. This was one of my, this is the book club I'm in. This is the book for the month of February, and a lot of people rated this very low, and I can see why. It definitely was a harder book to digest, I think, but I liked it. I liked it because it was a romance. I like second chance romance. That's one of my favorite tropes. And I also really like the light mystery of it, the light mystery of what exactly happened and finding it out in real time with Frankie and Ezra. So that was The Rewind. I think those were the only 2 romances I read. Then I did read a horror this month, which I was really excited about. I've owned this book for a little bit, and I've been really wanting to read a horror book for a while. And this is The Shadows by Alex North. I really loved this. I think I gave this 4 stars as well. There's another book by Alex North called The Whisper Man that I also want to read, and I think it has a light tie-in to this book, so I think that'll be fun. I think I probably should have read that one first, but I don't think it matters, to be quite honest with you, after reading this. He's referenced in here, but it's fine. So I think I also gave this 4 stars. This is about, again, names. Paul. Again, you're getting a then and now storyline, but it's mostly about this guy, Paul, who, in the then storyline, he has like a best friend who's kind of a smaller kid who gets bullied a lot, and they end up becoming friends with 2 other kiddos who are like creepy. Like Charlie is the main kid that they become friends with, and he's like really creepy. He's like one of those kids, I feel like, I don't know, I went to a lot of schools as a kid. I was a military child, so I feel like there's always that one kid in every school that everybody's just like, they're not quite right. And that's kind of how this Charlie kid is. He's just not quite right. He's very creepy, very spooky, and he says a lot of really weird things. And this book is so hard to explain because I feel like you just gotta read it. So this group of kids gets into this whole kind of lucid dreaming. They talk about lucid dreaming a lot and how you can actually control the real world with your dreams. So they live next to this like big wooded area that they call the shadows, and Charlie has convinced this group of kids that in your lucid dreams there's a man that lives in the shadows who is like, I don't know, they just explain him in a very creepy and sinister way, and it's very spooky. Everything is very spooky. They travel into these woods quite a bit. It is very scary, and somehow, some way, Charlie kills somebody and gets away with it, and the entire town, I suppose, or like all those kids assume he got away with it, because he disappeared, and they think he disappeared in his dreams. It's very hard to explain. I know it sounds really, really weird the way I'm saying it. Let me just like, yeah, they're basically just saying it wasn't just about like the murder of what happened. It was just the fact that afterward Charlie was never seen again because he like disappeared in his dreams. So now we're in the now, which is like 25 or something, 25 years later, and like a copycat has happened because like I was talking about with serial killers, like copycats and things. So there's like Reddit threads and stuff, and a copycat has done the same thing. So like a detective is investigating that and kind of piecing together what happened with Charlie, and then Paul has to come back to the town that he left because obviously like he left the town as soon as he could because he wanted to get away, and because his mom's, you know, dying from dementia, and he's reliving his past, and now because of the copycat killer, just like so many things are happening. So like you get the really spooky story of the then, and then you're getting like a really spooky story in the now, because you're like, what exactly happened to Charlie? Like, is he still around? And it's very spooky, very atmospheric. I feel like the descriptions of the shadows of the trees were very scary. The descriptions of the dreams and how they were controlling the dreams were also quite scary, and I really liked it. I found myself flipping through the pages very quickly because I was like, I need to know more. I need to know what's going on. There is a, I would say there is a, not even a light, it's like a moderate twist at the end that I did not see coming, and I think because I did not see it coming, I was like, I don't know, I felt like it was also almost like breezed over. I was just like, oh, okay, and we just kind of kept going with the story, and I was like, that's a wild twist. I didn't see that at all. But anyway, so I really liked this. I had a really good time reading this. I felt like it was the perfect amount of spooky for me, to where, you know, when I was done with it and I came to put it away in my book, on my bookshelf, I wasn't spooked out by like the dark shadows of my home, but I liked it. I'm really interested to read The Whisper Man by Alex North. I think I would also enjoy it. He's referenced in here like once, but I feel like my explanation was not great on this. Just read it. Just read it. It's okay. Okay, the next two books I have to share with you were my February book of the month picks. You guys should absolutely sign up for book of the month. I will put my link down below. There's always like, when you click it and you've never been signed up for book of the month before, look at the top of the screen. There's always like a code you can put in for your first month to be like $9.99, and I think it's just such a steal in my personal opinion. $16, $17 for a hardcover when you can go to Target and get a hardcover for like $29. It's a steal. So anyway, I got two books in February because I'll explain. So my actual February pick was The Writing Retreat, which is by Julia Bartz, and this was her debut novel. First and foremost, I absolutely adore this cover. I don't know what it is against the like lime green against the gray that really does it for me, but I absolutely adore this. So this book was so fun. I think I gave this 4 stars as well. I've been seeing a lot of people again on Goodreads saying they're not enjoying it. I had a great time reading this. So this is a thriller, which at times felt almost like a horror. I think I read this one right after I read The Shadows, so it felt a little horror-ish when I was reading it. So this is about our main character. What is her name? Alex, who is an aspiring writer, and she works, I think, for a publisher, but she is an aspiring writer, and her ex-best friend is also an aspiring writer. Like, I think she's just like surrounded herself with writers and people that are trying to get into the business, whatever. And they both, or I guess she, like as a child, grew up obsessing over this one author. Like, she loved her. I think she was a horror author, but it was just awesome. And this author does a writing retreat like once a year, I want to say, or maybe every couple of years, and it's incredibly difficult to get into. You have to be like the best of the best to get into this retreat. Once you're in this retreat, if you I think you like work with her and your novels become bestsellers, and it's something exclusive, something you want to do. So Alex somehow stumbles into this writing retreat, and she's able to go, and her ex-best friend is also able to go, which makes it sort of like kind of fun because you're getting that dynamic as well. but it's not exactly what you would imagine it to be. So it's in this very secluded area. This author lives in a very like old home, which is where the like weird horror aspect came into it, because it was like a little bit paranormal and very like spooky, and I really enjoyed that. It gave it like such a really interesting twist. Unfortunately, it wasn't the twist that I wanted, but it was a very good twist, and like that part of the book is very minimal. I wish it would have been more, because I actually really enjoyed that side story. But anywho, so they're at this writing retreat, and the main author, what is the author's name? I've lost it. Rosa, she wants them to write a novel in like the 4 weeks that they're there. They have to write a full novel. And as they're there, the weird things start happening. There's lots of like, you know, thriller twists, very I don't know, there's a lot of twists and turns. This book went a completely different way than I expected it to. Someone did say in their Goodreads review that I read that it felt almost kind of like YA, which I will agree. I definitely could see this being almost like a Pretty Little Liars, like sort of scenario, like not scenario, sort of like episode. Like it could be like written by like the Pretty Little Liars people. But I really enjoyed this. I had a really fun time reading it. It was really twisty and thriller-esque, and like I said, that hint of paranormal was really fun and kind of exciting. I wasn't expecting that. I really liked the writing retreat. I'm definitely interested to see more books by Julia Bartz in the future. I had a great time reading this one. Last but not least, I saved the best for last. I don't even want to talk about this book. This was the other one I picked, and I was like, I've been really wanting to read this. Book of the month had it as an add-on, and I was like, oh, let me just pick it up, we'll see. It's The Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo by Taylor Jenkins Reid. The chokehold that this book has on me currently is just gross. It's gross. I love this so much. So in 2022, I think my favorite book of the year was honestly probably ACOTAR, just because the chokehold that that book has on me is intense. And the reason I say that is because like I will read a book and like put it down and be like, wow, I really enjoyed that, and give it like 4 or 5 stars. But there are some books that I read and I'm like, I need to see fan art. I need to see what other people imagine these people to look like. I need to see what other people write about these people on subreddits. Like, I need to know. And this happened with The Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo. This book, I know everyone hypes it up, and that's why I started this book, and I was like, am I going to really like this? And of course, yeah, the answer is obviously yes. First and foremost, you cannot convince me that Evelyn Hugo is not a real person. I think she's a real person. Second of all, I would like to be her 8th husband / wife, because I love her. So this story is about, I think Monique is her name. Monique, who works at a magazine, and Evelyn Hugo is this, in my mind, I was envisioning her as Marilyn Monroe, but obviously she's not. But she is this elusive Hollywood figure. She is in her like late 70s now, but in her prime she was in movies. She was, you know, the one that everybody wanted to be with. She was sexy, she was amazing, she was wonderful, and she had 7 husbands. So in Hollywood, it was like 1920s, 1930s, like that was just, it was a lot. And it was, she was all over tabloids, and she was just so like the it girl. So now, present day, she's in her like 70s, 80s, and no one's really heard much from Evelyn Hugo. So her people reach out to Monique personally, and Monique's like at the bottom of the tier on this magazine. So she's like, why are you reaching out to me? To write a piece on Evelyn Hugo. She wants her biography written. So Monique goes to Evelyn's house, and that's where the story begins. This story is broken down into basically 7 chapters, and it is all 7 of Evelyn Hugo's husbands. And I will say, it's so interesting that each chapter is broken down by each husband, because you can tell the main star is Evelyn Hugo. She is just, I want to know more. Like, I know we got her full story here, but I need more. I want to know more about her. So it starts off with how she got to Hollywood, how she became famous, how she worked her way to become, you know, a movie star. And then you meet all of her husbands, and you see how she kind of sort of comes into her own, and she just becomes this person. And like, oh my god, the love story is just so good. And I'm trying to explain this in a way that makes you want to read it, because I want you, if you've not read this book, to read it, because it is so good. I love that it's like Hollywood themed. I love that it's like movie stars, and I love every single bit of this book. And I love how like so charismatic, but yet so selfish she is. I just felt like this is such, it's so hard to explain how much I really love this, but I really do. I like had such a great time reading this book. Certain husbands, like their chapters are very short. There are some that are super long, and it's just so interesting to see the relationships. I really love this. I don't know, I really do. So immediately after finishing this, I got my March book of the month, and I got Daisy Jones and the Six because the show came out, and I also really just want to read another Taylor Jenkins Reid book. Sorry, I'm like really spinning over my words there. And then after I saw that, one of my favorite people that I follow on Instagram, I think it's Rachel Turns a Page, was posting about Taylor Jenkins Reid, and I messaged her and I was like, is there a specific order I need to read these books in? And so Daisy Jones and the Six is next for me, and then I think I'm gonna do Malibu Rising, and then Carrie Soto is back. I just love the idea that she writes about famous people for some reason, because Daisy Jones is like a musician, Carrie Soto is an athlete. I know literally nothing about Malibu Rising, but I'm ready to learn. But this book so far is my favorite thing I've written in 2023, and I don't know what's gonna shake it because I have loved every single second of that book. That was, if you're gonna read any of these, I fully recommend that one. It's the best. So that's everything that I read in February. I hope you guys enjoyed. Go ahead and subscribe to my channel if you're not already, and I will see you guys in my next one. Bye guys.